And we are live. Sorry for the delay there. We had some internet issues. But the plan today is to talk about Sea Ray parts. Sea Ray is one of our long-standing partners, one of our best customers. We build a ton of different parts for their boats. So the plan today is in no particular order to just kind of walk through some of the stuff we build and how we can be a resource for a Sea Ray boat owner.
Yeah, so when I started here, we talked about, you say a long-standing partner. We've been building parts for Sea Ray since inception, right?
Right, yeah, 30 plus years, absolutely. So, I mean, most all of their models, we have, some parts. I know that it could be as high as, 50, 60 plus parts that we build for an individual model. And we'll go through some of those. We have some of them sitting around. So you want to jump over to the site and we'll kind of talk there? All right, cool. So the first thing to know is, as a Boat Outfitters customer, one of the things we've spent some time doing is grouping parts by boat brand to make it easier to shop. So down here you can see a link to the Sea Ray page, and we've got a variety of different boat builders. So we'll check out the Sea Ray page. And one of the main things to understand is that our core competency, and we've added a lot of different parts to the website, but kind of our bread and butter, what we do is plastics fabrication. We do a lot of CNCing of King Starboard and acrylic parts, and then we also do a lot of metal work that supports those parts, things like aluminum frames and aluminum slide tracks. But that's really the main thing that we build for Sea Ray.
Right.
So, as we scroll through here, for example, doors, right, goes to plastics fabrication. We build a ton of different doors, specifically aluminum frame doors for Sea Ray. Garrett has one here. You want to show them what you got?
Yep, this is just a standard aluminum frame. We'll switch over next after we go through the doors here. That again, these frames are something that over time we talk about getting chipped and deteriorated. Again, very high quality, but it is powder coated, right? So over time, and if anything starts to happen, that can start to peel away. So start with the doors here.
Sure. Yeah. So I mean, the doors, the way we sell them, because we have so many different ones, it's not practical to load them all up. I mean, you can see just all the different sizes and shaped doors we have. Is we ask you to measure the length, and then measure the width and find your door. So maybe you have this 18 by 18 square door, and then we come into more detail. This one has a bottom notch hinging on the right and hinging on the left, two different options.
Right. The drawing's the most important thing to know.
Absolutely.
Right.
So we've linked up all these drawings. So in this case, you can see this is a right hinging 18 by 18 door with a notch on the bottom. So we've tried to kind of document all of that and make it very easy to find the part that you're looking for. But then what you would do is you would take note of that part number. So that would be right here, the 19077F, and you would have to come in and select that part from here, and you do get some pricing changes. Like this is quite a large door, it's more expensive, a little bit smaller, a little bit less expensive. But all of these, the nice thing is this is a direct OEM replacement. Pull your old door in, pop your new door, or pull your old door out, pop your new door in, screw it right into the same holes, and you're good to go.
So one of the questions we get a lot from customers, they'll call in and we ask them for their make, model, year of their boat. Mm-hmm. I notice on this page that doesn't exist. So,
sure.
What are some of the reasons why we don't document years in the case of these doors?
And so we absolutely, when we're prototyping parts for a boat builder, and Sea Ray's the same as any of them, we keep track of what model boat we're prototyping something for, and we have all of that documented. The challenge is that we might prototype something for the 34, and then it's used for the 34 for a year, but then the next year they used on the 34 and the 32, or the 32 and the 28,
and we don't hear back on that.
Yeah, we assign a part number to it, and they order that in a production capacity, and they install it on new boats. They just decide to dual use SKUs, and as a result, maybe 2-3 years down the road, they're not even using it for the original one that they used it for. So we know that in 2015 we prototyped this for this specific model, but 2-3 years later it's not necessarily communicated back to us that they aren't still using that. So right. What we do, the nice thing is we have drawings of everything, right?
Sure.
So, if you say, hey, I'm looking for this specific hatch cover, in a lot of cases, we can track down the maybe half dozen hatch covers we did in that general ballpark and send you maybe 4, 5, 6 drawings to review. And then it's really going out there with a tape measure.
Confirming everything, being able to get the right door. Yep.
Absolutely. So, as you mentioned, Jared, we have full doors, but then we also sell replacement frames, which is what we have there. So if your acrylic or your starboard is fine, you just want to replace the powder coated frame, that's certainly an option. And we've got a similar thing down here. You find your hinge side and your non-hinge side, and you select a part number.
Right.
Piece of cake.
So, on that note, you talk about different components. The full thing is the door itself, right? And you're ordering everything, but there's the case that the frame goes bad. You can see in this door there's a press-in seal that's in there as well. Also, the latch on the door goes bad. We lump those and group those together as well for the individual, the parts that we know that those hardware parts were used in the bill of materials for either this door or that door over the years, and that we've sorted those by category.
Absolutely. So we have the parts that we manufacture that use component hardware that's purchased, right? So for example, we don't build this latch, but we build a bunch of different doors for Sea Ray and other people that do use this latch, and we know that Sea Ray uses that latch on some parts that we build. So we've linked up a lot of the different hardware. You'll see a lot of locks and latches. Here's a great example. So in many cases, you don't need to replace the whole door. You just need the hardware. So we've got a ton of Sea Ray hardware, which is actually a good segue to one of the main replacement parts we do for a lot of different Sea Rays, which is sliding track. You want to show them what we got here?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is sliding track. It's our roller ball system. So I'll pull out this carrier, which actually holds the material of the door. And you'll see we have sliding balls that go down inside here of this this track. We'll probably cover track a little bit more in another segment, but again, this is a quick component to where you can say, I need this length of carrier, this length of track, and we will send you this full kit so you can take your old kit out and replace it with this to get your door back, working as it should.
Sure, and that is the kind of thing that, if you have your boat for a decade, you might need to replace. A lot of the parts that we build for Sea Ray, and we'll talk more about additional parts. King Starboard, we've talked about it before. It's in a lot of ways indestructible. I mean, it's not going to need to be replaced unless you really try to break it. Acrylic could. Acrylic can crack, so there might be some acrylic replacement parts. But I would say the Track and Truck, because it gets so much wear and tear, and because it is so important, right? I mean, there's nothing worse than you can't open the door, you can't get down into the cabin of your nice, fancy boat. That is a very common replacement part. And there's actually two different styles. You mentioned the rollerball style. Let's switch back over and look at the Track and Truck style. So this is a really common part that was used more in the early 2000s, less so now. Most of what we do now is the rollerball style. But on these, the truck over time can wear down, and the trucks might need to be replaced. So that's another really common replacement part that we sell a lot of.
Well, I've got sliding glass doors on my house right now. I think they were probably replaced 5 years ago, right? And you think about all of the dirt that gets tracked back and forth over that, and then you multiply that from the fact that it's in a marine environment, and somebody's jumping out of a boat into the sand and then jumping back in and going down in the cabin to grab something, and there's salt water. So it is something that, they break down over time, but again, a good component, and it's a pretty quick fix to get things fixed up.
And you make a good point. I mean, if you want to try to make sure these last as long as they can, get down there with some compressed air if you can, and blow out your tracks every now and then. Make sure you're not grinding down that ball or grinding down these wheels. I'd love to sell you more, but that's a pro tip there is kind of keep that track clean, and you'll get a longer life out of your hardware. So let's see what else we've got. I mean, there's just so many parts. One thing I wanted to mention, you'll see 115 parts that are listed online that are linked to Sea Ray, and I hate seeing that number because it very much so underrepresents the value that we can provide a Sea Ray owner. I pulled a report looking at our prototype system on how many different prototype parts we have designed for Sea Ray in just the last, since probably the early 2000s, and we have prototyped over 7,000 parts for Sea Ray. Not all of those have gone into production. Some prototype parts don't. A lot of them do. Most of them do. But over 7,000 parts we build for them. The reality is, though, that a lot of them just wouldn't break. They're smaller plastic component parts that you probably wouldn't need, or maybe they're
a trim plate, or
sure.
Here's a good example of something that doesn't break. This is actually one of the inserts for the swim platforms.
So show them what that is, right? Yeah. Exactly.
So it's just a piece of 3/4 inch starboard that drops into the swim platform. It's a fiberglass swim platform. They have these inserts that go in. You can see the branded Sea Ray logo into it.
And we have some that are color core as well.
Exactly.
So you've got the black.
And the big thing is that this probably pops out over time and gets misplaced or lost or whatever. But other than that, I mean, this piece is pretty hard. It's not something that's going to break or wear down. It's probably being lost or misplaced.
Mm-hmm. So, there's a lot more parts even than what you see in this Sea Ray category. So, please do not get discouraged. If you don't see something in here, give us a call. We have a full customer service team that would love to help research and send you some drawings. But scrolling down through, here's an acrylic transom door. This is the 460DA transom door, and again, you've got all the hardware, and the hinges are also available and in this category. Even some big bent sliding cabin entry doors. Here's the 320 slider door, and this has the different traction trucks that we were just looking at that mount here. So we have a bending fixture, and this material goes into an oven, gets heated up, and comes back, and there's a male-female bending fixture that sandwiches this door, and then we cool it, and we add the seal and everything. So this is an exact OEM component. This is the part we've sold for Sea Ray. So from time to time, like we talked about, acrylic can break. You get someone where maybe they drop something on it, right? They drop something on the door and you get some crack, and you're concerned about replacing that. So this is a great part that we have, and we have many other slider doors that aren't listed on the website for Sea Ray as well.
If you want to switch back to the full screen view, we actually Andrew ran downstairs this morning, and as part of production, these are parts that are going out to Sea Ray. So here's one door here that's a bent door. You can see up here. It's what do you remember what model this is for?
A little bit. Yeah. So you can see the bend.
You can see the bend on the door here. Again,
I think it's for the 350 SLX. I found the drawing of it actually you can switch and do.
Yeah, so there's that door here, and then similar to that transom door from before, here's a bifold door as well. This bifold door. You said the application is like a wind dam, possibly on a dual console.
You've called it a wind dam door. Mounts between the two consoles in a dual console. So all different kinds of parts. I mean, and when you have thousands of parts you build, literally like Jared said, a couple hours before here, we ran down to production and gone, hey, what can we show as examples of the types of parts that we have? We hope the takeaway is just, I want to make sure that I remember these guys as a resource. We're not going to sell you one of these doors. You don't need one until it breaks. But it's all about knowing what who makes something. Having a good resource when you're looking for something.
Right.
Let's switch back and let's see if there are any other good parts that are worth mentioning. So another thing I want to mention is just material in general. So because we manufacture all the different parts for Sea Ray, we use the specific color acrylic and the specific color starboard. So if you're ever doing any kind of retrofit project, guys, there's nothing worse than two whites that are almost the same but not the same on a boat.
Right.
Don't make that mistake. Call us. We have the correct material, color that you need. Don't go buy starboard or some marine board on from a big box store and end up going, wow, that's a gigantic eyesore. Let us know. We'll hook it up and get you the right color material.
That's a good point.
Similarly, we do a lot of Corian work, and we don't advertise it a ton on the Boat Outfitter side. We probably should more. We do a lot of different wet bar countertops and even big interior countertops down inside the galley for the bigger boats. So if you ever want to add Corian to any area or replace a countertop, we have a lot of the replacement Corian material, and I don't see any on this page. Let's see. Let's give it one more shot and go one more page over. Nope, I don't see it. I pulled up a picture. So here's a countertop that we build. This is Sorel Corian. Is an example of the type of parts that we could do. And really, it's probably not practical that you would redo an entire countertop, but we do plenty of replacement sink lids like that.
Yep.
So that's a very viable part, something to keep in mind. I saw replacement keys. Replacement keys is a big one. These aren't keys that you could just have a locksmith come do. If you get locked out of your cabin, it's going to be a bad day. So that's something to keep in mind. We have instructions on how to look on the back of the latch and find your key code. So we have replacement keys, all different kinds of hinges.
Yep, and again, for the key thing, it's something that we've got a team of people here that you can give us a call and walk you through those instructions. Make sure you get the right key to get into the boat.
Just think of anything else related to Sea Ray. The only thing I did want to mention is, as a Sea Ray owner, assuming that most people watching probably are, you are very fortunate that you work with one of the builders that do a fantastic job of really documenting the bill of materials of their boats. That's one thing that in the marine industry is really lacking, and it's as a result, it's because for the most part, they're not building enough of any model to justify this super robust bill of material. Here's an exploded view of your boat. But Sea Ray is an exception, in a lot of ways there. They have this Sea Ray owner's manual. Actually, here's the owner's resources section, and you can come down here to owner's manual, sort by year, and click on any of these owner manuals and get really, really great, exploded views that have Sea Ray part numbers. If you're able to call us with a Sea Ray part number, we can generally cross-reference that and send you back over a drawing. So in this case, that bent door that Jared was showing, if you found that, and this is it, the SLX or SLX 350, you call us, and this is it right here, right? So you came from a broken door, you went and you found it in your owner's manual, found the part number. Give us a call. We'll send you back the drawing. We'll ask you to confirm dimensions, get you a price, get it shipped, get you fixed back up.
Yeah, so I mean that's really what we do when somebody will call in. We'll reference them over to this owner's manual section, not only for the parts and components that we build, but just to make sure that they're aware, looking for their local dealer, because the dealer may have a Sea Ray part number that they can then give a Teak Isle part number for us. Mm-hmm. And then at that point, we have everything we need, like Andrew said, to build the part and get it out the door quickly to you.
Cool. The only other thing I had a note to mention is, there are definitely some other places that sell Sea Ray component parts. If you search Sea Ray parts, you're going to find some other websites for sure. And what those guys generally do is they're resellers of scrap or just overstock inventory. They go in and they purchase the overstock really when there's a model year change and there's extra inventory on component parts, and they resell it. And that's a very viable direction to go. There's some disadvantages in that sometimes it's a little bit older inventory, but certainly you can get some good prices on that stuff.
Right.
But I do want to just differentiate the fact that we are manufacturing brand new product for you and can rebuild any part on any model that has happened in the past. Very different than let me go out back and see if I can dig up and
scrap
see
guy,
if that's
basically.
It's different, right? Which is fine. I just wanted to differentiate kind of who we are and the value that we can provide from a replacement part standpoint.
Absolutely.
Well, great. Let's switch back over real quick. Hopefully this was helpful. I know it was a little bit all over the place, but to be honest, we build 7,000 different parts, and the parts are kind of all over the place. We hope the takeaway is that when you need a part for your Sea Ray, you give us a call. Think of anything else, Jared?
No, sir.
Awesome. Well, give us a like, post down in the comments with any specific questions. Thanks, and have a great day.